We've got some pretty big news with regards to Rocket Labs a couple of days ago, plus Rocket Lab is expected to report their next quarterly figures on Tuesday, November 12th. We're definitely going to cover those numbers. Now, as you can see, year to date, Rocket Lab has done quite well, right? We're up 144%. Of course, the majority of the jump came in the last couple of months. I mean, if we go back to the start of September, this stock was only up 5% year to date. Now it's up 114%. Now, if we look at the last 3 years, stock is still down close to 13%. Right now, it has a market cap of $6.71 billion, and EV to sales in the next 12 months sits at 13.4 times. If you look at what the analysts are expecting this company to do sales-wise and EPS, I mean, EPS is still expected to be negative up until fiscal year 2026, but sales is expected to grow quite fast, I mean, growing 73.6% year over year in fiscal 2024, then another 38.65% in fiscal year 2025, and then another 48.21% in fiscal 2026. Why do we see this reacceleration here? Well, the analysts are expecting some revenue recognition probably from Neutron. Currently, there are 13 analysts covering this company, and well, the bad news is that the average analyst price target sits at $8.34, representing 38.26% downside from the price we're at today. To be honest, if the stock does drop to 10 or under, then I think I'll double my position. So let's talk about Rocket Lab. Let's talk about the great news, a little bit about the numbers for the quarter as well. Let's dive into that. If you enjoy this type of videos, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not. We really appreciate that. We're trying to reach 60,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Let's try and do that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. So let me first zoom out a little bit and tell you how big the space economy is expected to become. By 2035, the space economy is set to reach $1.8 trillion, up from $630 billion in 2023, and averaging a growth rate of 9% per annum, a figure significantly above the growth rate of the global GDP. Space-based and or enabled technologies such as communications, positioning, navigation, and timing, and Earth observation services are expected to be the key drivers of this growth. This is why the folks at Rocket Lab did not stop at just rockets, did not stop at rockets and spacecraft. No, they want to be the end-to-end space company. And this is why the third one here is pretty important. Space data and services. If you own the rocket and the spacecraft, you can deliver the most valuable part of the space chain, data and services from orbit. It powers our world and demand for it continues to grow. What will they do remains to be seen, but the opportunities there are extremely big, and that's where the big money will be made. If we look at Rocket Lab's business gross profit-wise, gross profit margin and total revenue, well, total revenue has increased quite a lot right in the last couple of years. Since Q4 2019 is up 575% or so. Gross profit became positive basically in Q1 2022, and now Q2 2024 we're at $81.8 million. Gross profit margin is now at 25%, whereas, well, the first quarter that was 0.5%. We're still going up to the right, so that's great. And this is all without Neutron. This is in the phase of building Neutron, which means that Neutron does not contribute to anything with regards to revenue, to profits, to margins. But in the future, Neutron is expected to be a money-making machine, right? Because right now with Electron, the cost there is what, $7.58 million per launch? With Neutron, you go closer to $60 million. Now, you also know that right now, for the quarter, they expect to report, what, $103 million in revenue? So imagine, less than 2 Neutron launches will be as big as 1 quarter today for Rocket Lab. That's why I keep saying this is still early days, even if the stock is up so much already since the low, since the $4 or so that we've seen 6 months or so ago. Still a long way to go. Of course, Neutron still does not exist, does not work as of now. Remains to be seen what gets mentioned in the earnings call if we're still on track to launch at least once, right, by mid-2025. So last quarter, Q2 was Rocket Lab's biggest quarter in company's history, $106 million in revenue, up 15% quarter over quarter, up 71% year over year. Backlog was $1.067 billion, and revenue growth was driven by an increase in launches and significant growth in their space system business. Launches is a very, very small part of the business right now. I mean, 2/3 of the business is basically space systems. Now, as for Q3, they expect revenue between $100 and $105 million. They expect space system revenue to come between $79 and $84 million and launch services at $21 million. Now, we know they did 3 launches in Q3, so it's around $22.5 to $24 million or so, approximately. As for GAAP gross margin, they expect it to be between 25 to 27%, non-GAAP between 30 and 32, adjusted EBITDA a loss between $31 and $33 million. Now, this is what Peter Beck said, I believe, 2 quarters ago with regards to the launches for the year. It was expected to be, well, the manifest said it would be 22 launches for the year. Now it's a bit closer to 15 to 18 launches, and that's not because, well, Rocket Lab isn't ready. It's because, well, the customers aren't ready to launch just yet, and that's just the nature of the business. And so for Q4, they expect as many as 4 launches to as many as 7 launches. Now, looking at what has happened already right now, in October, 0 launches. So the first month of the quarter, 0. In November, we already got 1, which was, well, a couple of days ago. And so we should maybe expect a higher rate of launches in the coming weeks because there's only 2 months left and there are still a couple of launches short to reach 15 to 18 launches. So yeah, Q4 is probably going to be one of the best quarters for Rocket Lab. Q3 with only 3 launches might be weak-ish, but I think they'll meet their own guidance. Then the big news came at the start of November when we got this. Apple commits $1.5 billion to Globalstar for expanded iPhone satellite services. Apple committed about $1.5 billion to satellite communication and Globalstar to fund the expansion of iPhone services. The tech giant has already been spending hundreds of millions for Globalstar services, which enable the 2022 rollout of iPhone emergency satellite texting. The new funds will allow Globalstar to purchase new satellites and expand its ground infrastructure. Now, Globalstar, where did we see that name before? Well, Globalstar is a customer of Rocket Lab, so maybe a part of that $1.5 billion could be flowing towards Rocket Lab. Maybe a new contract will be announced, remains to be seen, but to be honest, I would not be surprised if that happens. Good news number 2 is this. Rocket Lab confirms plan to bid for Pentagon launch contracts with new medium rocket. We are excited to bid this time around for National Security Space Launch Phase 3 Lane 1 program, and we think Neutron is a really good vehicle for it. Now, the fact that they're saying this already right now is probably them knowing and maybe semi-telling us that Neutron will be delivered on time. The Space Force requires the next round of Lane 1 bidders to be ready for the first launch by December 2025, a timeline Beck says Neutron can meet. Yeah, if the first launch for Neutron would be mid-2025 and there are no issues, then yeah, let's hope they can meet it. Then of course I'll have to add the political aspect of things with Donald Trump winning, with Elon Musk being quite close to the new administration. That should be good, in my opinion, for the space industry. I think there will be less red tape, right? The time wasted through all the demands, bureaucracy, and all of that. I think that will be removed. Should be helping, of course, companies like Rocket Lab, like SpaceX. Plus, I believe there will be a lot more merit-based contracts with, well, less regulatory red tape and all of that. And I think Rocket Lab will be a big winner there because yes, okay, we can all admit SpaceX far ahead. But when you're the number 2 in the space, no pun intended, then I believe you will be winning and winning quite big. Like I said, this is just a start. We're only dealing here with a Electron, space systems, but once Neutron becomes, well, a valuable part, a big part of the business, won't happen in 2025. 25 will be just a sneak peek, testing, successful launches, hopefully. But 2026 is when things become more and more interesting. So, yeah, I think the exciting times ahead for Rocket Lab investors. Still a small company, right? All things considered, 6 point something billion in market cap. When you look at how big SpaceX has become in the private markets, again, there's no comparing. They have Starlink that's generating a lot of money for them. But it does make you think, right? Makes you think about what Rocket Lab could be in the future. Now, right now, if you look at this stock, like I said, this stock has gone up to the moon, quite literally. And here again, I would like to point out that you can stay overbought for a long period of time, right? We've been overbought since the start of September, and the stock went higher and higher and higher. Okay, maybe short interest could play a role here, could very well be. But my point here is that just being overbought does not mean that you cannot go higher. And same with being oversold, although the oversold game is usually shorter than being overbought. Right now, the 200-day moving average sits at, well, $6.49, the 50-day one at $9.16, and the 20-day one at $10.60. I don't know what's going to happen with the earnings report. Even if there are good numbers, sometimes the stock will take a breather, so we will drop down. But if the report is good and the comments on Neutron are excellent as well, for example, they expected to now launch a bit earlier than expected, good progress on Archimedes, I mean, the stock could continue to go up and the shorts will get squeezed even more. Me personally, I hope we get good news, good report, but the stock goes down so I can load up a little bit more. As you know, this is still a small position for me, but I really want to grow that position into something more meaningful because one, I love space, I like this company, I like the management, and I can see them become huge in the future. So of course, I want to make as much money on my investment. So yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, that's what I've got for you right now. If you like this type of content, like, subscribe, do all of that, and I'll see you all in the next one.